everybody in favor of the accepting as read?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll open up the, for nominations for the election of officers for next year.
I nominate Bill Ursus for president.
I'll second that.
Any others? Next up, we'll close that one. Everybody in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, for vice president.
I make a motion, John Dooley for vice president.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, John, financial report, please.
Okay. Financial report for the Greensburg Municipal Airport. We have the three separate accounts. The airport improvement account is, at the moment, is negative $908.82. Aviation road and fuel account, $59,865.74. Airport operations, $366,876.48. Our current balance for all accounts combined is $425,841.40.
I might note that on the bottom left-hand side, the fuel on hand and prices, that is what we have presently, $44,613.26 as of January 1st. And since then, we have unloaded jet fuel. Thank you. Mr. Shaffer, your turn.
Happy New Year. Good to see you all. Construction update, not a lot has happened. We are in the winter months. We reported last time they were going to do the best they can to winterize the project. They did put a lot of mulch and winter wheat seed out there in an attempt to stabilize the site, and so now we're in a holding pattern until the springtime, which by the contract language will be April 1st. They'll have to start. We'll start the clock again on the contract time. We did do a survey, a topographical survey of the site as in its current condition to see exactly how far along they got. It's hard to tell without a survey. So we got that survey and we're going through that. HIS is providing one as well. So all that will be done through the winter and we'll be able to know exactly where we stand April 1st. On the project, we do not have a progress estimate for the contractor this month because they didn't do any work worth paying for between last month and this month. Because the inspection invoicing runs a month behind the way our invoices fall, we do have a pay request on that grant that pay for inspection services for the prior month. So that's a motion on AIP 16, partial pay request number 11, and that's in the amount of $30,273.12, which is 100% federally funded.
You're pausing because you want a motion for us to pay you, right?
Yeah. Or if you have any questions with regard to that, in your packet, I didn't copy the whole pay request, but I copied the cover sheet and then an eye chart on the third sheet back there that has a bunch of numbers, and that's kind of the checkbook of the job. And you'll see there's two VFS invoices that make up that $30,000, $23,305, $6,967.83. So that's currently where we're at, which puts us at 73.29% of that grant, with the balance of $783,382.27 to go.
Make a motion to approve AIP 16 partial pay request number 11 in the amount of $30,273.12.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote on that, Judy.
John Dooley,
Yes, paid.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Erstis.
Yes. Okay.
The second item is more of a formality because we've already submitted a pre-application that you approved last month in anticipation of a grant this fiscal year. And you'll recall the pre-application amount was an amount minus what the supplemental grant announcement was, which that supplemental grant announcement was $3,085,853 towards the paving and lighting phase of the project. So that left a balance of $2,507,174. However, we put an application in for 2.8 in case the contractor comes back with some inflationary costs, additional mobilization, breaking it into two phases, those sorts of things. We're just giving ourselves a little cushion there on that application. So you've already turned that in. So the second action item is basically a requirement by the FAA and the Federal Register. They're required to solicit a letter from you saying that you're going to use your entitlement dollars. So that's a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 letter of intent to use your FAA non-primary entitlement funding, which is part of that application we've already submitted.
I'd make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 letter of intent that states our, to the FAA, our intent to use the FAA non-primary entitlement funding.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
So that's a good segue before we talk CIP real quick. On the paving and lighting project, we did get acknowledgement from the FAA that they are considering an additional, an increase to the $3,085,853 that was announced in October for you. Whether that's 15% more, 50% more, or the full amount, we're still unclear. We are still planning for the scenario where there's zero increase from that, in which case we've structured the CIP based on our pre-application that we've already submitted, which assumes no increase to supplemental and some extra mobs and so forth because of breaking the project into two phases. And we have some reasonable amount of assurance. Dave O'Mara has agreed as of this week that they are still willing to honor the concept of their paving and lighting bid from last year, and they are willing to accept it into notice to proceed. So that's good news for now. So that then puts us in a position to talk about the CIP. The last page of your packet has the CIP broken out there with 2022 is technically not part of this 5-year cycle, but we've included it in just as information. And you'll see that $2.8 million ask, which matches the pre-application that you already approved last month. So that year is relatively set in stone. Priority 2 is, you'll notice a funding type, the third column over is type 2. Those are NDOT funded projects. They haven't been funded since 2000, so it's unlikely that they'll start funding them again. But we did, with these grants being matched 100%, as you know, it saved this community, approximately $500,000 over the course of the first grant and the $3 million grant here, all combined. So statewide, NDOT's saving a similar amount of money. At Greensburg, they save $500,000 already too. Well, if you add that up to all the airports in the state, there is some money in the state dedicated fund that was allocated for grant match that's not being used for grant match. So NDOT Aviation would like to do a one-off call for projects. So it's important that we have these projects in there this year in the event that they just happen to fund something. We want to have something on the list to fund it. So you'll see as we go through there, we've put in a few type 2 projects, the utility line, the water, and the terminal with hangar, which would be a new terminal building with a transient type hangar that you could fit a small business jet in for overnight storage when you get visitors to the airport. So we've included those in there throughout the plan. Then going back to federally funded projects in 2023, it's all about land reimbursement, getting the land reimbursed. You'll see that's kind of broken into priority 3 and priority 4 are the same parcels. We just split that out into, right now, that $2,002,975 are all either the court-appointed appraisal amounts that we deposited with the court, or like the Dickman's accepted offer. Any of the numbers that we know are in there, and then any of the pending court award amount numbers that's what's been used to populate that number. So that's where we're at on those particular parcels there, 1, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 17. And then the 190,000, the reason it's separated out is because those are the soft costs. Those are surveying fees, legal fees, appraisal fees that aren't necessarily nailed down until we get to the end. So we've separated them in the event that they want to reimburse for the land first and then reimburse us for the soft costs second. They like to see that itemized out now. So that's why that's broken out, even though it's the same parcels. And then you'll see in 24, 25, and 26, we have the balance of the parcels that we have to open the runway that have obstructions on there. So those are aviation easement parcels, and again, there's that. It's broken up into 3 phases, and that's mostly based on cash flow of entitlement dollars, because they've dedicated some discretionary funds in 23 based on the programming, but in 24, 25, 26, we don't have that. So we have to get it to fit into your non-primary entitlement money, which is why that's broken into 3 phases. And then after that, you'll see the last project, federal funded project, you'll see terminal apron taxiway strengthening overlay and expansion design, and then the construction of that in 2027. We don't know that will happen in that particular time, but that's the next logical project, because as you have the longer, wider runway, you will see larger aircraft coming in. It's going to be extremely tight on the pavement that you have now, and it's very thin for the size of aircraft that's going to be operating here. So this is a idea where we would widen the terminal apron out to 7,000 square yards, which is it's about 4,600 square yards right now. We'd go to 7,000 to give enough turning radius to get the aircraft to be able to turn around under power, and it'd be strengthened to support the increased weights. So that's where we stand. Looking beyond that, I think we would look at a parallel taxiway and so forth and so on. But for right now, that's plenty of projects for the next 5 years, which is what we've been asked to submit by February 1st or 2nd is the due date. So happy to take questions on that.
Getting board approval for the CIP then tonight, since it's due in February.
Yes, I think we would, and if you have any changes, you're happy, I'm more than willing to accept the motion pending, subject to changes that you might want. But this has been the program for a while. I don't think we should change it much now, just so there's no surprises to the FAA at this point in time. It could change based on if the supplemental amount goes up, then they'll likely ask us to adjust this, because the ask in 22 won't be the same. It also could change, I think, I'll just head this question off, the bill, or the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that recently passed there'll be additional money. And right now it's not, it doesn't appear that it's gonna be operational money similar to the other stimulus projects. It's gonna be capital money. But right now what we're hearing is it's gonna be a separate capital grant, but it's almost entitlement-like. So there's pre-programmed amounts. I believe yours is $159,000. So your $159,000 is your allotment of the $2.89 billion annually that will be passed out for 5 years. So in theory, you're gonna get this $159,000 annually for the next 5 years to be used for a capital project. There's a lot of questions still. We don't know if they're gonna make you apply it to your highest priority entitlement project. We don't know if you take that money and use it for revenue generating, say a fuel system or a hangar, if you get in if you have to take the 3 years of no discretionary hit after you accept that money. There's a lot of questions on it that we don't know yet, that we're still trying to figure out. So right now, the FAA and NDOT have instructed us to prepare this without the $159,000 in there. There could be another supplemental document to this down the road that says this is what we're gonna use our $159,000 a year on down the road. But it's, right now, what we're hearing is it's a separate application process, a separate grant, and a separate capital project altogether from this, which sounds like a administrative nightmare, but that's what they chose to do, so that's what we'll do. Any questions on the CIP?
Do I have a motion to CIP?
Make a motion to approve the 2023 through 2027 CIP with possible changes for submission to NDOT.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I agree.
Thank you for your time.
Let me ask you a quick question, Paul. What do you think our possibility of completion this year for the runway to be open, or would you think it's gonna be in 2023?
Yeah, okay. Good question, Bill. The 2022 opening is unlikely based on the contractor. And it's not, to me, it's not even a cash flow issue anymore because of
It's time.
it's time. It is just straight time. And I think, there may have been a few missed opportunities here or there by the contractor. We certainly owed them a lot of weather days. 42, I believe, is the number of weather days. So had they had those 42 weather days, could they have gotten the grading phase done this year? Possibly. And if they would have, then I would feel real good about opening in 22. It would be a late 22 open, but we would have gotten there. The issue with what we've got now is they can't start again until April 1st. So we owe them those 42 days. They already have 30 some days and change. So if you do the math, you're about 75 days. Plus, it appears that we'll probably overrun borrow quantity, which will then end up owing them another, by our calculations, another 30 days or so. So with that said, they're probably not handing the site over to Dave O'Meara until July. If Dave O'Meara doesn't start until July, they physically cannot, they won't have enough time before the winter weather in 22 hits to complete. So I think right now, based on what I see, is we're probably looking at, they'll winter their project, it'll start again in April 1st of 2023. They'll work as hard and fast as they can.
23 or 22?
So the grading will start again in 22.
Yeah, okay.
But the paving, when I'm saying they'll run out of
Okay.
time this year to complete the paving. So then they'll have to complete the paving April of 2023, which would put us on track for a June or July opening of 2023. Yeah.
Will they put the gravel down in 2022?
Well, we're still working through, I think a lot of that, Bill, depends on how much of the supplemental funds the FAA is able to give us. Right now, they plan the way we've broken that up is they would buy all the electrical components and install them. They would put in all of the under drains, and get that all synced up, and then they would do the line stabilization to the sub base, and they would put half of the aggregate base in and roll it all out and seal it up to protect it. Then it would sit there, for a time until the next slug of money. But if they don't get started until July, the next slug of money will come before, so there'll actually be no pause in that. But in the event there was a pause, we are gonna stop it at the crushed ag base. And then the next slug of money would have been paving, painting. The other thing that's in the first slug is the obstruction clearing. So as soon as we get the okay to spend on that $3 million, we want to get the tree trimmers out and do the tree trimming, because that needs to occur in the winter months before the bat migration season begins again. So.
What's gonna happen with all the straw that's out there?
Well, I mean, no. So the winter wheat will theoretically grow if it's not too cold. And the straw and all that will have to be stripped off. So they're basically gonna have to re-strip off a little bit of the top again and put it off to the side. They'll probably churn it up and then use it as topsoil type seeding, so forth like that. Because we don't want them to place pavement over top of winter wheat or anything like that. But they have enough earthwork to do. There's quite a bit of work, dirt that's going to be piled on the surface you see out there right now. Thank you.
Mr. Tribett, you're next on the agenda.
Try not to talk as long as Paul. Imagine that, a lawyer talking a shorter time than an engineer. I would like to report this evening on your land acquisitions. And some of this I'm probably repeating, but I just felt like it might be a good idea to run through these. As you know, the Dickman navigation easement was signed, payment has been sent and received, so we've concluded that particular property acquisition. With regard to the Robbins Family Trust, we are acquiring 1.557 acres in fee simple, and we're acquiring a navigation easement over 2.474 acres. Our appraiser, this is interesting, I think our appraiser appraised the fee simple at 23,000 and some change, and the navigation easement at 26,000. The court-appointed appraisers, on the other hand, appraised the fee at 15,500 roughly, so about $8,000 less than what our appraiser appraised it at. And the court-appointed appraisers appraised the navigation easement at 12,370, so about 14,000 less than what our appraiser appraised it at. Again, it's interesting, but the total there is 27,490. That money has been paid to the clerk, and has been certified to the county auditor. So from the standpoint of the county records, you are now showing, the airport is now shown as the owner of the fee and the navigation easement. Of course, that's not the end of the story, as you know, because the Robbinses have actually filed exceptions to the appraiser's report, which means eventually, unless we reach an agreement before, eventually would go to trial for a final decision on the amount. In an effort to start getting prepared to head in that direction, I have sent interrogatories, which are written questions, and also a request for production of documents to the attorney for the Robbinses. and they have about another 2 weeks to respond to those. Typical those get kind of extended a little bit, but we at least have the process moving forward. With regard to the navigation easement over 0.64 acres of the Steve Lowe property, I have been asked by our appraiser to furnish him with some information, including a survey drawing and legal description, and he wanted to see the actual navigation easement so he would know what the limitations on the use of the property would be, and that's all been sent to him. He was on vacation. He's a big Purdue fan, you imagine? And I think he went to Tennessee last week to see the Tennessee-Purdue football game, but he's been out of the office. So I don't have their numbers. As soon as I have their numbers, I will put together a contract with the appraiser and the review appraiser and let them get started on that. With regard to the Beggs, Haston, and Goddard properties, there has been a claim in at least 2 of the discovery responses with regard to a cost to cure based upon some drainage work. And we don't really have much information on that. We're not sure, what the need is or what the perceived need is or what they exactly plan on doing. So I have served some subpoenas on the 2 entities that have been named as the ones that plan to do the work. One, Dyckman or Diekman? Dickman Farms, drainage work, and then Johanningman Excavating, which are the 2 entities that have been identified as entities that will provide some drainage work, the nature of which we don't know yet. So that obviously is the purpose for that. I'm also trying to get trial dates set on those 3 cases, and they are all 3 of the defendants there are represented by the same attorney, Mr. Seaver out of Carmel. It's typical that you try to coordinate dates with opposing counsel. There's nothing in the rules that say you have to do that, but that's just common courtesy, and I've seen judges get a little irritated when lawyers go off on their own. But I've been told for roughly 4 weeks that I was going to get convenient dates from the other side for a trial, and I've written once and emailed twice, and I haven't got anything. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is just do what we did previously, just ask the judge to set a date, which means there is, depending on how congested the lawyers' calendars are, it may very well get continued change, but at least it gets, again, moving in that direction, which we need to do. So I intend to do that here within the next week. And then the final item that I have, and it's the only action item that I'm looking for tonight, and that is with regard to the Fred Sturchy land acquisition. And we've got a trial date actually set on that one, and the trial date is January 24th. So the lawyers have been talking among themselves, and of course this board previously approved that we make an offer, a pretrial offer, which the statute requires us to do. And the pretrial offer that you made was in exactly the amount of the appraiser's award, which is $259,740, and that offer was rejected, and we ended up with a counter offer of about $100,000 more than that. And so the lawyers have been having some discussions, and we finally ended up with a proposal whereby Mr. Sturchy would accept the $259,740 for the 15.362 acre fee simple appropriation and the 0.960 acre navigation easement, but also conditioned on the airport agreeing to purchase the 5.698 residue that's left after you took the 15.362, because Mr. Sturchy doesn't want that, and he wants the airport to purchase that at the same per acre value as the court-appointed appraisers appraised the 15.362 acres. So that would end up at $94,017. So, and I think that's, I think it's reasonable. You really need that 5.7 acres rounding it off. And it's different really than the other fee simples, the big properties you're getting from Beggs, Goddard, and Haston. And the reason it's different is because it has your access that you're using it. And you had a temporary agreement with Mr. Sturchy last year for use of that driveway to access your construction project. The agreement expired December 31, 2021. So we need to tie that down, and you don't want a bunch of construction vehicles, moving dirt in there and driving across the existing airport. So I think it's worth the extra money, and I'm recommending that you agree to that counter proposal that we've now received from Mr. Sturchy. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
That's that extra property that he wants to throw in. The 5.698 acres is, like I say, has unique characteristics. It's that allow it to be appraised perhaps differently than other properties.
Right.
It's not comparable. In other words, in any ways, not comparable to other properties.
I would agree with that, John. Yeah, I would agree with that entirely.
Okay.
And it's also, it's right on the highway. It's not remote from the highway.
That's the actual piece of ground that has the access to the
Yes.
bypass, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a driveway, and it's been approved by NDOT. So you've got, a driveway that you're gonna be able to continue to use. I mean, I don't know how much damage you do to the rest of your airport if you had to drive, because you got some pretty heavy trucks coming in there. I think there'd be a real risk of damaging something else if you lost the use of that driveway.
So he's agreeing to the same dollar per acre, just wants us to take those extra
Yes.
remnants of parcel.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. I don't know if there's any other discussion with that. I would be in favor of, given all the circumstances that we discussed, be in favor of accepting Mr. Sturchy's counter offer to our offer.
I'll agree to that.
I think I agree to that too. I mean, with the unique characteristics to it, and it's our access, and our access easement ended in the year, so that would give us everything we needed back. Plus for future access too, as far as that part's concerned.
Well, I have a feeling that if we had been making an effort to renegotiate that access, you'd have been looking at dollars.
I think you're probably right.
Just based upon conversations
Very possible.
that I've had with his counsel, I think he limited it to 1 year for a reason. And I think we've become dependent upon it, and I think we'd be looking at dollars. So.
Did you again, make the motion that we accept his counter offer?
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion?
Any other discussion? If not, let's do a roll call vote on this, Judy.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
yours.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, unless you
Okay,
have
thank you.
questions for me. So, thanks, and good seeing everybody.
Mr. Scheidler?
Well, everything's doing fine at the airport. Got another little jet fuel the other day. Fuel sales are continuing even though it's getting into winter. We did have a hangar vacated, and our hangar list was shortened by 4 names in process of that because 3 of the people had, their situations have changed and they're no longer interested in coming to this airport. You know, that happens too. You know, they found somewhere else to go or whatever the case may be. And but we still have 3 people on the list besides. So, but the hangars are all full. And
Which hangar came open, Jerry?
Paul Struckman's plane got sold at Mooney. They're
Where was he hangared?
on A5.
Okay.
So, one of the names was someone over at Batesville. They've made an agreement with the new owner of Batesville that they can stay there for maybe a couple years in one of the large hangars, and until such time as his business grows to where he needs the floor space. And so, for now, they're willing to stay where they're at. I had one person who had just moved to Indiana put on the list, and now in 3 months they're moving back to Ohio, so they're no longer interested. Wouldn't be worth their while to get started with us. And, one person I got asked to be moved to the bottom of the list again, so reevaluate next time something comes around. But at any rate, we'll still, you know, we've had at least 2 people from the Batesville area showing interest in if we're going to build new hangars after our old runway gets closed, where we got some real estate to do that on. And I think both these people would be interested in a lease agreement where they would lease some ground to build their own hangar.
Did the same people we were dealing with?
One of them
before?
is.
One, okay.
So anyhow, you know, I think I told them those discussions haven't happened yet, but I'm sure they will somewhere down the road here, and we'll cross that when we get to it. But there is interest out there in more hangar construction one way or another, whether the board decides to do it and the city own it or to do the lease deal. So anyhow, when I know more about that, I'll let you know. All right. Thanks.
Okay, next, approval of bills. We've got the one from last year that's a total of $110,075.28. And then Betsy also sent out one for this year's. And Amy, we don't have a voucher cover for it. Do you want it approved yet anyway?
So with our new system, with our new software, we're not going to use the vouchers anymore. As far as the cover sheet, if there's something that you want us to make up that.
This was new to me.
What's that?
This was new to me that we didn't
Yes.
have something for it.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, and it's something that we can talk about later, but there's an online portal that I can give you access to, or you and Mr. Dooley, or whoever feels like they need to see the stuff in real time, that all of our department heads are now have access to that, so that you can see just your accounts, and you can see all of that in real time. And that's also where we can import the invoices through. It doesn't mean you have to, we can do that for you like we usually do.
We still
but
need to approve this.
that would be appreciated,
And
yeah,
that's
if
what
you
you'll
could do
send
that.
out each month, is just like this with the total at the bottom.
Mhm.
Okay.
If that works for you, if there's something that you would like to see different, we're kind of trying to figure out with this new system what you want it to look like and what kind of reports, because it's obviously different than our previous Keystone.
Will there be some way that you can put it out to have lines for us to sign?
As far as the whole, like, the claims all together on a report?
Well, more like when we approve it here in the past, we all signed it, we approved it, all the board members,
For all the claims or individual claims?
all the claims.
Yes, we should be able to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
And the individual ones I'll still have to sign.
We can do that. We're kind of moving away from that, but if
Okay.
you feel like that's what you want to do, we can do that.
Okay.
It may be something that we need to sit down and kind of talk about as far as because our new system, the process is all electronic, so when someone puts the invoice in, then it gets sent on to me, and I look at it, and I approve it, and then I send it to Betsy, who does the final input into the system, and that's kind of our signatures, our electronic signatures. for it. But if you, because you're not in here in the system, if you still want to have papers, we can still make those up and still make that work. That way you can sign off on them.
What do you think, Absolutely.
It's whatever simple, yeah.
Or can it just all be emailed so everybody can look at it?
We can make that work, yes.
Okay. 'Cause I'd like everybody to see what we're agreeing to.
I agree. I think everybody
Should be able to see it.
Okay. All right.
And are you talking about the individual claims? Because we're still gonna be able to have all of the claims on one report. Yes, we will still have that for you.
And then these won't exist anymore then?
The cover pages,
No,
the voucher pages?
the accounts, these?
Yes, those will not exist any longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got the one that I mentioned, and then the one for this month.
We got December, and we got a new one for January, or the January's the one page. The one thing on the January page, there's some items here, some charges from Duke Energy that you strike off of there. Those were accidentally put on the airport page. So that $220.24 is not airport money. They've already taken care of that, stricken that from the.
And then I received in the mail today from our attorney, his checking account, his charges, and I thought we can include those in tonight, and then Betsy can pay them?
Yes.
Okay. And his charges were $12,986.75. Is that all right? Is that correct, Don?
I don't do that. I just do the work.
Okay. So I'd like to include all three of them at the same time.
Give me those three amounts again, please.
The first one was $110,075.28. Now, John, on this $195,000, that was we still need to take out the $220.44.
It's taken out already, so the January figures is now 194,847.28. Taking out those Duke Energy charges.
Okay. And then the other one was Mr. Tribett's, which is $12,986.75.
Thank you.
Say 12,986.75.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
And Betsy, or Amy?
Yes.
That's all right. We will sign this one, but these others, we just assume they're in the new system.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Do I have a motion to approve this?
Just some minor discussion here on
Okay.
the short spreadsheet. You'll see at the very bottom right there, there's figures for three appraisers, the Smith, Colson, and Borges there. Those are appraisers' figures that are broken out into there. So otherwise, they're all pretty straightforward. There's
All right.
columns in the December and January this month to vote on, since we didn't have a December meeting. But I would approve, or I would move that we approve to pay the bills as listed and discussed here, including the Tribett attorney bill.
Second.
Let's roll call this one.
It's complicated.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Okay. Any comments from the board or the audience? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn to the next meeting of February 3rd.
We adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.